And when you have um, if you have a large house, a large audience, when something is said, you may not know who it is for because we are plenty. But if you are few, when something is said, you know. In fact, if you are the only one there, you know this may be my word. So I believe that God is going to be speaking specifically to us to move our lives forward. Amen. So this month we're going to be looking at a very important conversation as we deal with the issues of dating and courtship and so on. Specifically, we're going to be looking at how to know who to marry. This is a big, big, big deal. And like we've said, marriage is a big subject. Somehow we know it's a big subject. But what we don't often do is to give it adequate preparation. We basically what to do for marriage is wait for it. Right? It's just wait for it. That's where we just hold on and know that one day I'm going to get married, I'm going to have a wife, I'm going to have a husband. We just wait. But if something is as critical as marriage, it is the most important relationship that you will have, then it should not just be something to wait for, it is something to prepare for. The Bible says in Hosea chapter 4 verse 6, it says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." Marriage is not destroyed. In fact, marriage is not destroyed for lack of love. No. Marriage is destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you can love somebody, but if you don't know how to express that love to that person, the person will not be able to perceive, that love that you have. You can be telling somebody something, but if you don't speak in the language that that person will understand, everything you're telling them is meaningless. So it's important to come before God's word and learn about marriage. The other thing about marriage and love and the things we're talking about is because the church is often silent. Sometimes the church is busy with other things. We learn the things we know about marriage and love and sex and such things from the world. And that's very, very sad. If you open the internet, you will see the unbelievers producing content upon content upon content. And we feed on these things so that when we even come to church and communicate, the conversation that we hold, they are conversations sponsored by the knowledge you have gotten from the world. And that's very sad. But marriage is God's idea, and because it is God's idea, it is supposed to be that He tells us how we should do it. So that's why we have this meeting, so that we can talk about what God has in mind, so we can learn it. We deal with other big issues about prayer and fasting and communion and anointing and all of that. But many times our life rises and falls on relationship. And so that's why we need to pay attention to this subject matter. So, how to know who to marry? How do we begin? So many marital problems can be solved, before you even get married. So many marital problems can be solved before you get married. Put another way, a lot of marital problems originate by how you got into the relationship. This is so vital. How you get into the relationship has a lot to do whether your relationship is going to be healthy or not, whether it will crash or not. There are people who have got into the relationship in such a way that it won't survive. It's a matter of time before the cracks begin to show. So the point of choosing who to marry, whether as the man or the woman is so critical that you need to, if you miss it there, of course, there's always chance for recovery in God, but you may now struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle, and sometimes people are not able to come around. I want to write this thing down. You solve tomorrow's problems today. You solve tomorrow's problems today. You see, the circumstance you are in now, the challenge you are in now, the blessings you are enjoying now, they are product of the seed that you have sown yesterday. It is the seed you sowed yesterday that produced the reality that you have now. And you can also be sure that the life you're going to have tomorrow will depend on the seeds you are sowing today. So before you get into relationship, I try as much as possible to encourage my daughters and my sons to don't worry too much about marriage. It will come. It will happen. It's a matter of time. It will happen. We've seen people who cried about not getting married. Now they're having kids and all of that. It will happen. Instead of waiting and worrying about it, the thing to do is to prepare. Because when it comes on you now, you find out, I don't even know what it's about. The scripture that comes to my mind when I look at how people get about marriage is Proverbs 14 and verse 12. Proverbs 14 and verse 12 is one of the most frightening scriptures that you will ever read. Proverbs 14 verse 12 is one of the most frightening scriptures you will ever read. Incidentally, it doesn't look frightening. It looks common. It looks ordinary. And, we memorize it. We know it. It says that there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Right? Is it frightening? Are you frightened? It looks, and we memorize it and we recite it and we quote it. But it says that there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So think about it for 1 minute. That, this thing looks right, and you follow it, believing that it is right. But eventually, it is not right. And not only is it not right, it will end in destruction. But it says it seems right. So let me ask you a question. What informs the things we do? The thing that informs the things we do, or we do the things we do because of how they seem to us, isn't it? We do what we do because we believe it is right. Yeah? We do what we do because we believe nobody will do something they believe is wrong. If you're saying, you do what you do because you believe is right. You relate with somebody because you believe is right. You have that conviction that it is right. We choose what we do because we believe that they are right. But this scripture is saying that something can seem right to you and be wrong. If something can look right to me, maybe you are in one situation right now that you believe that you are doing the right thing. But this scripture suggests that situation you are in might be wrong. Over this last week now, there may be something you have done that you are convinced in your heart is right. But say, no, that's the way that seems right. It seems right to you. Okay, by the way, have you ever done something you thought was right at the point you did it, but found out to be wrong? Have you done something like that? That's life. So what does this suggest? This verse is very powerful in its application. What it suggests is this, that you don't do things based on how they seem to you. That's a very challenging thing. It means you don't trust your judgment. Wow. That you don't just say, I thought about it, I looked at it and it was okay, so I did it. No. In fact, if you read in other portions of these Proverbs, there's something Solomon said, which is a very powerful thing. It's laughable, but it is very powerful. He said that the ways of a fool are right in his eyes, right? Okay, what does that imply? Implies that if you do things just because they are right to you, who are you? You're a fool. And it also means that you don't just do things because they appear right to you. You do things because they are right, not because they appear right to you. Something can appear right to you and be wrong. Is it possible? It looks right to you, but it's wrong. Something can appear wrong to you and it's right. In school in those days, there's a way a teacher will come and say something, and you because of the small knowledge you have got, you think it's wrong, right? You think that, sir, you raise your hand, sir. Have you noticed that kind of thing used to annoy teachers very seriously? They just look at you like, who is this person? Because I've gotten small knowledge, and sometimes we don't know that life is so complex that something that you are taught at a point in your life will have an exception at another point in your life. I don't know if you have noticed that. You are taught it here as a principle, but then later in life they now tell you that, depending on. So life has dependencies, and sometimes those dependencies nullify what you used to know. What that means is that when you want to do life, you don't do life on your knowledge. You are taught what to do. You are taught what to say. So vital. That's why in school, when you write a paper in school, and it's an academic paper that you want to submit, they want to know, what are your sources? Right? How did you arrive at this? If you say, it just occurred to me. In fact, if you write the paper first, they first of all go and check whether you have references. No references, they just start it in. It's nonsense. You can't depend on you. You're a small boy. Life is so complex that you need to tell us how you gathered your knowledge for what you're doing. This is so vital. And what that implies in what we're discussing is the way you are doing relationship. Is it just because of how it seems to you, or because you are doing it based on having been instructed and guided by the principles of relationship? Because what is right, even if you don't think it's right. And what is wrong, even if you don't think it's wrong. So this is so vital. There's a way that seems right. So my challenge to you is, don't do relationship based on how they seem to you. Find out how it should be done and do it. And sometimes you can find out how the relationship will be done, and you'll be uncomfortable with it. But comfortable or not, insist on yourself to do what is right. Let me tell you the sign of a mature person. I want to write this down. Mature persons do what is right no matter how they feel. That's how you know that somebody is mature. They do what is right no matter how they feel. Somebody is not mature when they do what feels right. They do what they do because it feels right. Mature people do what is right no matter how they feel. And so just because something does not feel right does not mean it is wrong. And just because something feels wrong something feels right does not mean it's wrong. Just because something feels wrong does not mean it is right. So you need to ask yourself, how am I doing in relationship? Is it just based on how I feel, or because I know that this way is correct? All right. Of course, one of the implications of this is this. This is important. I want to go to something. I'll touch on this for some time now, and then I move. Almost always, people choose who they marry based on how they feel about the person. Right? What do you think about that, given what we have just read? When somebody wants to marry, when a guy tells a girl, I want to marry you, a fundamental thing she will check is how she feels towards the guy. She wants to know if there's chemistry, right? She wants to know if there's a spark. She wants to know if there is, and then sometimes, if they keep talking and talking and talking, she's like, he's a nice guy, but there's no, that thing, It is that thing that will help me to know that this is right. I want to get a feeling. I want to get an illogical, unexplainable something. You don't marry somebody based on how you feel about them. Difficult, practically speaking, but true. You don't marry somebody based on that. You have to feel feeling is good. But the thing about feeling is that feelings rise and feelings fall. And by the way, the feeling you have for somebody is based on the knowledge you have about the person. If your knowledge about someone changes, your feeling about them will change. So you can see a girl in the picture. You see her picture. She looks all nice and so on. Okay, now that we're even, we're now doing AI generated picture. We have graduated from editing the picture to now AI is generating perfect pictures for people, so that looks so wonderful. So you look at the picture and it doesn't look so nice and so beautiful and so wonderful, and you can fall in love with the picture, for sure. But what do you do when the person comes around you and you notice that the person has body odor? Because no matter what you do, pictures don't reveal body odor, right? You can't see, you can't. But when you get to know them and there's a way there's a smell you perceive in, you forget somebody's beautiful. You just forget. You're choking. You can also get to know that somebody, it lies, right? You have feelings for the person, but they lie. The feeling will just die. Have you noticed that those who are married have less feelings for each other than those who are not married? Like your parents. Your parents look like roommates. They don't, this person is going this way, this person is going that way. They don't even talk to each other. They don't hold hands. Some of us have never seen our parents kiss each other. Never in the history of kissing. They've never seen. Why small boys are jumping over the place, hugging on the main road? Those who are married that have certificate, you don't see them hold hands in church. In fact, in some churches, she will sit over there, the man will sit over there. After service, the man will go from that door, he will go from that door. Feeling is not the basis. Don't ask your feeling. Don't ask your feeling. You don't marry somebody based on how you feel about them. We'll talk about all of this, but let me just give you a nutshell. You marry somebody because your destiny is connected to them. That's why you marry somebody. You don't marry somebody because of, whenever I see you, my heart skips a beat. I just feel like, whenever I'm around you. Story, nonsense. You marry somebody because there's a destiny connection, a purpose connection, not because of a feeling connection. All right, now, let me take a step forward to something that is vital as you look at how you will know the person that you're supposed to marry. This is so vital. So vital. You cannot know who you should marry until you are ready to marry. Now, this is a big challenge, because we mess it up all the time. You cannot know who you should marry till you're ready to marry. Last time I mentioned to you about a friend of mine who got into year 1 in school. He was in school. He was going to do law in school. So he got into year 1 in school. And when we met, he told me that he has seen who he will marry. Year 1. Year 1. And he was going to do law. So if you're going to do law, you're going to spend at least how many years? You have 5 years, and then 1 year of law school, and then 1 year of youth service. If there's no strike. If there's strike, then depends on how long the strike takes. And you already know who you're going to marry. I said, when are you going to marry? He said, in the next 6 years. 6 years? Will you be the same person in 6 years? Will they be the same person in 6 years? You cannot know who to marry. So the first question, one of the most fundamental questions to ask yourself when you see somebody, it's not that I want to marry this person. No, it's when am I ready to marry? And as a lady, when somebody says they want to marry you, one of the most fundamental questions to ask them is when. And if you ask many guys when, they have no answer. They are not prepared. When you want to marry, they say, well, the way I'm looking at it is, I think that, this year is ending. The next year is beginning. Maybe towards the end of next year, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years, So when you see, this is very important. There are simple principles you have to put together. Write this down. Process is superior to person in marriage. Process is superior to person. The way you go about it tells you whether you are going to get the right person to marry or not. So first question to ask is when? When are you going to get married? And then it's up to you to now decide what time is appropriate for you. But however, the question of when should I marry, when is the right time? I will answer it, but I'll break it down. When is the right time to marry? The right time, when you are ready, is when you can settle down with somebody. You can settle down. It's not, I will be ready. No, I'm ready now. If I marry somebody now, I can settle down with them now and live with them now. That's when you're ready. And that is when you can know, when it is easy for you to know who you're going to marry. So you need to be ready to marry before you can choose who to marry. You need to be ready to marry before you can choose to marry. If you choose who to marry before you are ready to marry, or before they are ready to marry, you are putting the cart before the horse. You can be sure that relationship is going to have issues because you are going about it the wrong way. If you read the scriptures, God never gave a spouse to somebody who wasn't ready. Right? God never gave a spouse to somebody who wasn't ready. This is God's style, not man's style. So let's look at a few instances in the Bible where we can say that the people married according to God's direction. But the first situation is Adam, right? God gave a wife to Adam. Was Adam ready at that time? Was he ready? Or was it going to be in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? The Bible says that God saw Adam, and God said, it is not good, as in present tense, right now. It is not good for the man to be alone now. Not it won't be good. Now it's not good. I will make him a helpmate for him. In other words, Adam was ready, then God brought the person. Not Adam will be ready. No, he is ready. So because he is ready, God now brought someone to him. He was ready. That's God's way. In fact, that's even the logical way. It's just that when we want to do something, we find ways of justifying it. The next situation in the Bible of somebody who got married the way we can say is approved is Isaac. Abraham was going to arrange for Isaac to be married. And by the way, that style still works. So the style of somebody recommending somebody to you, it still does work. But of course, this is Abraham, the father, asking Eliezer to go and get a wife for Isaac in go to his family, his country to get a wife. The question is, was Isaac ready? Isaac was ready. As soon as they brought Rebekah to him, he took her to the mother's hut. Not that mother was dead; the mother had died. So he is now the what do you call it? The owner of the hut. So he took her there. In other words, he took her home because he was ready. The next case of where somebody got married in the Bible is the case of Boaz and Ruth, right? Was Boaz ready? Boaz was seriously ready. Was Ruth ready? Ruth was ready. So you are ready. When you are ready, you can make a choice. When you are ready, you can connect. If you're not ready, relax. Now, there's one case where somebody chose who to marry when he was not ready in the Bible. You know that? The name of that guy was Jacob. Jacob chose who to marry. He came, saw somebody he liked, and then Jacob said to the girl's father, I'm going to serve you for how long? For 7 years. Think about that. In 7 years, you are no more the same person. In 7 years, gray hair would have been started coming out here and there. 7 years. Jacob was foolish. Really. Now, of course, we will say love was driving him, but in essence, it was foolishness driving him. Let me put it in context for you. Jacob is the son of Rebekah, right? How long did it take for Isaac to marry Rebekah? So Isaac, the Eliezer goes today, right? Sees Rebekah, brings her back the next day, and she's married to Isaac. Finish. Then Isaac gives birth to Jacob. Jacob sees a girl he likes and he will marry, and says, I will give 7 years. And eventually, 7 years went to 14 years. You see? Okay, so what happened? Let me say a few things about that situation. Number one, of the 4 cases I've mentioned to you, Adam, Isaac, Boaz, and Jacob, Jacob's case was the only place where the process was wrong. The process was wrong, and I will expand on it a little bit. How is it wrong? Number one, you see, in all the 4 situations, there was a father or a mentor behind the arrangement. In Adam and Eve, there was God behind it. In Isaac and Rebekah, there was Abraham behind it. In Boaz and Ruth, there was Naomi behind it. In Jacob and Rachel, there was Jacob behind it. And so, there was no superior wisdom to consult. There was no questions to ask. There was no guidance to receive. What's the result? 14 years of... How do you even do 14 years? It should be that when you see somebody you like, right? You're already crazy for that person. Is that correct? If you see somebody you want to marry, you can't contain yourself. Okay? So how would Jacob be living in the same house with the girl that he wants to marry? How will he born for 14? That's like hell. Because every day you see this. You know, the first time Jacob saw Rachel, he jumped on her and kissed her. That's how emotional he was. Now you're living with her now for 14 years. Every day you come and see her. You run around. You come to this. Oh, no, Jacob, no. Foolish. But there was no guidance. That's number one. So if you're going to marry properly, there has to be the environment of mentorship, of fatherhood, or supervision. It cannot just be you and the person. You know what people come and say, I want to marry you, but let us keep it between us. Marriage. Keep between you and me. You know, marriage is a contract. We call it covenant, but covenant is contract. And contract means that it's a legal... Marriage is not an emotional relationship. It's a legal relationship. It's a legal relationship. So that's very important. It's not about, forget that. You see, if you marry somebody, marriage is the only relationship where they require you to sign something. Abi, you are the boyfriend, girlfriend, then we have to sign. Then your parents will come and sign. And they bring witnesses to come and see what is being done. What is that thing called? It's a legal situation. So no matter what you do, even if you don't like each other, you're married. You see, you don't sleep with your spouse because you like them. You sleep with your spouse because you are married to them. You don't sleep with who you like. You sleep with who you are married. So I don't like you. Nobody cares. Are you married? Yes. Come on. Very important. Marriage is a legal relationship. So what happens in the case of Jacob? Jacob didn't have anybody guiding him. If you are going to sign a contract, you have to bring your lawyers to look at the paper. So you cannot agree for someone to marry you without letting someone talk to them. You can't do it. But girls do that all the time because we already fall over in love with the person. And if I will start protecting the person and start shielding them from our father and our mentors and our pastors so that they don't spoil our business, because you already got, you are gone, no. Somebody says they want to marry you, they have to deal with your people. Those that have authority and influence over you. Not want to marry me. Next time you collect a ring. For what? You want to marry me? Okay. My uncle will call you. You see, when a guy wants to marry you, sisters, he needs to talk to somebody. He needs to be scared. He needs to be scared. This is very important. When you make it so cheap for someone to marry you, they don't talk to anybody. They didn't answer questions to anybody. When the day comes and they mistreat you, they will fear nobody. But when they say they want to marry you, you don't jump onto them. Then you're just sleeping and having sex. So I want to marry you. You say, okay. I want to marry you. Okay, I will give you feedback. And by the way, don't just say yes. Give feedback. Even if you want to marry, don't say yes. So I'll think about it. I'll give you feedback. And then you say, okay. I'll tell you what I do later, but at least in a nutshell. Let's say somebody calls you. My uncle wants to see you. Your uncle. He will not sleep in the night. Because he's thinking about what he will say. The answers. A man needs to feel like that. Because men are animals if they are not under control. When you marry, a man is an animal. They don't listen to anybody. So that time they are coming to you fresh is when you should make them listen to somebody. And nobody's there for Jacob. Jacob is just there with his brain, with his boy brain, just the guy wants to marry. How do you say I give you 7 years? I'm sure Laban would have been looking at him like, this guy is a fool. So I'll give you 7 years for your daughter. He's a monkey. It's really 7 years? Okay, come and see. So that's the first thing. No mentor behind it. Number 2, the relationship between Jacob and Rachel was driven by appearance, physicality, and emotion. Relationship between Adam and Eve was not driven by emotion. When Adam saw Eve, he says, this is the bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. He's talking about what? Compatibility. We are connected. We are fitted. Because that's what you must look for. Compatibility, that's a big issue. We'll come back to that later. You have to be sure we are compatible. Are we going in the same direction? How are we wired? What are we pursuing for compatibility? Between Isaac and Rebekah, what were the values? Remember what's his name? Eliezer was looking for. He wanted to find a virgin, a lady who was pure, a lady who was hardworking, a lady who was kind. Those are values. So Rebekah was picked based on values. Eve was picked based on compatibility. Ruth was picked based on, she was serving and she was useful to Naomi. So she arranged for someone to marry her on that contest. What was the base of Jacob choosing Rachel? Ooh, Jesus. Oh, wow. I can't leave this girl. That's the madness. If I miss this girl, can I ever find a girl like this again in the whole world? Who are you? So he made that choice. And because that choice is wrong, eventually it will frustrate him and bring him crisis. He didn't consider important things. Let me say something there too before I move forward. Eventually Jacob married 2 persons, right? Because the father of the girl saw that he was stupid, so he just use him to sell his two daughters. One was not very beautiful, and then the man thought that this one, since he's a fool, let us use this one that he wants to buy and sell off the other one that is not very, very good. So he did that. But let me ask you a question. If Jacob was supposed to marry one person, who do you think he should marry? If Jacob was, like right now, we'd say we should marry one. This one thing is for some people is a concern. Is it only one? Only one? Yes. And by the way, God telling you to marry one person is a statement of love. Even though there's something in men that wants to, do more than one, That's for an issue for another day. But God says one. Which one was he supposed to marry? Rachel or Leah? You see, when we like romance, particularly ladies, and it's okay, I'm not saying it's bad. We like, as soon as I saw you, oh my God, the heavens above me opened, and rain started to sprinkle upon my head, and they dropped on my head, they softened my brain, and I just relaxed. I took a deep breath, and I opened my eyes, I saw rose flowers blossoming in the distance. We like that. Oh. That's why we think the person that Jacob should marry is Rachel, because that's a love story. As soon as I saw her, I couldn't contain myself. I just rushed, and I pulled away the stone from the mouth of the well, and I watered her cattle, and I looked on her face and said, oh my God, I've seen the face of an angel. And then I rushed and I kissed her, and I said, where's your house? Because I'm going to go to you. We like that kind of movement. Oh, your heart's already panting. Ooh. But the truth is this. Look at now the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that Jacob has the mantle of Isaac. And Isaac has the mantle of Abraham. Now, what's that mantle? The mantle, the purpose of God for Abraham that has gone to Isaac, that has gone to Jacob, is that he will be the father of all nations. Correct? Okay. If your destiny is to be a father, what will you need in a woman? You need someone that can be a mother. Because if you are called to be a father and you have someone that cannot give birth, that destiny will die. Now, between Rachel and Leah, who had capacity for bearing children? It was Leah. But she was not beautiful. So when Jacob was looking for who to marry, he didn't look at what is the purpose of my life. As it were, let's say that was possible to find out anyway. Who can combine with me and help me fulfill that purpose? He didn't. This is dry. This is not romantic now. Whoever says we go for dating, go out. What do you call it? We go on an outing, and we sit down in a restaurant, somewhere, and we are looking at it saying, "What's your purpose?" Is that what you are? What's your purpose? What's your mission in life? Have you any mission statement? That's not what you ask. You want to ask things that, soft, like, where do you like to live? How many kids you want to have? It's some things that are something. So he jumped and married Rachel. Of course, the person that he thought was a mistake was Leah. But eventually, it was Leah that had an open womb. Rachel had a closed womb. So it was Leah that gave birth to the first son, Reuben, right? It was Leah that gave birth to the second son, Simon. It was Leah that gave birth to the third son, Judah. The fourth son, the third son is Levi, and the fourth son is Judah. Do you know what that means? This woman that was not loved was going to be the one to sustain the dynasty of Jacob. If Jacob knew from day one what his purpose was and who was going to combine with him to fulfill it, he should have gone straight to Leah. Straight and say, I want to marry you. But she's ugly. Say, no, it's not about ugly, it's about destiny connection. Eventually, Levi will be the father of all the priests of Israel. And Judah will be the father of all the kings of Israel. They all came from the one that was not loved. David came from Leah. Solomon came from Leah. Jesus Christ came from Leah. And she was the one that was not loved. Because nobody counseled him. He didn't pray. Just, oh, Father, I said, I can't miss you. That's why he paid deposit 14 years ahead of time. If you go to where they sell cars and you pay deposit that will last 40 years, by the time you come back, it's a style in vogue. It's a style in vogue now, not in the next 14 years. So you don't marry somebody when you are not ready. He wasn't ready, and every step he took was a mistake. That's very, very important. He wasn't ready, and then he started making mistakes. One, of being led by his emotion. We do that all the time. One of the things that make people have long engagement is that they have seen somebody they feel they don't want to lose. That's one of the most arrogant things to do. Somebody you don't want to lose. How can you cut short someone's destiny? Because to you, they are just good for you. Let me tell you something. Nobody promised you that you will marry the most beautiful girl in the world. Who said it's you? You know how we say, I found someone, he's just so perfect. Does it have to be you to marry her? You're not ready. So let someone ready marry the person, but selfishness and self-centeredness. And by the way, when you hold somebody down by a long engagement or things like that, you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. It's not because you love them. It's because you think that they will be useful for you. You see, when you love a bird, you don't put that bird in a cage and be giving it grains to eat in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and be singing for the bird. So, oh, my bird, I like you. You are so nice. And giving the bird water and treating the bird nice. No, you ask the bird, what do you want? And the bird will say, I want to fly away. So if you love me, let me go. You say you love the gear, you tie rope on the leg of the bird and be pulling it. It's not the bird you love yourself. You want the bird to act to you. Okay? All right, so why should I choose who to marry when I'm ready? Let me see if I can run through a few things. We have to talk about this all the whole month. I want to know so that your steps will be straight and you will not need to be corrected. You will be on track. Why do you need to wait till you are ready to choose who to marry? Why do you need that? Number one, until you are ready to marry, you will never know all you need in a spouse. What do you think? You see, your decisions today, they will be based on your knowledge today. And so if you are taking a decision today for something that will happen in the next 2 years, you are taking a big risk. Because in the gap, you will have acquired much more knowledge. And you are evolving. And the person is evolving. So you are making a decision right now for someone that's evolving. So until you are ready, you cannot know everything you need in a spouse. You know some things. I don't know if you have ever seen somebody that at one time in their life, they were very beautiful or handsome. You know somebody. And then at another time in their life, that same person became very ugly. Do you know somebody? Let me see your hand if you know somebody. Because I know somebody. When this girl was young, 17, 18, my God, she was beautiful. Like you thought that this one of those people that God created on Sunday when his strength was in full swing. You know, some people are made on Friday. He was soon to have Sabbath, on Saturday, and he was already tired on Friday, and he had that still one lump of clay there, and he wants to make one more human being. He's tired. He said, "Oh, Gabriel, I'm tired. What am I going to do? One person, Pastor, one more person. Just do hand like this and brought out somebody." So it seems. But when he's rested on Sunday, those he created on Monday, like some of you, as I'm looking at you, they made you on Monday. I think this is first. I think it may be around Thursday, Wednesday. This guy is so beautiful. I saw the same girl at another time. I don't know whether it was sickness or something. You couldn't take anything from her hand. Now, supposing somebody had made a commitment and said, I'm going to marry you because I saw that you're beautiful. And then over 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and you come back and the person never didn't match again what you thought. So you can never know all you need in a spouse until you are ready to marry. Why? Your taste is still evolving. What you want is still evolving. At one point in your life, you can say, I want fair ladies. That's what you may think. I want people fair. Because somebody told you that those who are fair are good cooks. So that's the wrong information, but you believed it. And they said, I want people who are just, And then later, after 2 years, you now learn that that's nonsense theory, that those who can really cook are those who have died. Ah! But you have committed yourself to somebody already because of how your knowledge was at that time. So you wait until you are ready, and you take a decision based on, exactly where you are. Of course, the second thing to that is that you can't really know who you are compatible with until you are ready. Because that other person too is evolving. Let me draw something for you on this, my board I have here. You see, we are all constantly changing. This is powerful. I'm going to tell you one of the most powerful theories in relationship. We are constantly changing. One of the challenges of long engagements, or those who engage when they are not ready, is that, so watch this. This is a channel. When two persons go through the same channel, if you have two persons who go through this channel here, if they go through this and they come out here, there will still be two persons, but their experiences will be similar. Right? So let's say this is 2 years. 2 years. For instance, those with whom you went to school together, you have same teachers, same environment. When you come together now, you have so many things to talk about because we had the same experiences, so we were bonded. And what marriage is about is how we can connect and be bound. Now, if you spend these 2 years and two of you are apart, this one is going through a process like this. Somebody here? This one is going through a process here. Depending on the difference between this process and this process, two of you can come out here and be widely different. Because you did not go through the same experience. Now see the crisis. When somebody comes and sees you I come from the East. So in the East, he sees when you are going to get into the university, I say, I like you so much, I want to marry you. Now because two of you went through the same secondary school, okay? Which means at that point, your experiences were similar. So you agreed to marry, but not immediately. It will be after you finish university. Then you divert. And then you go to another university in the north, you go to one in the west. After you finish your school, you are no more who you used to be. Your experiences have reformed you and recreated you. And sometimes, too, it happens for those that want to marry you, but I want to go to Ghana for 5 years. Yeah, I want to go to California. You go like that. By the time you come back, you are no more who you were. You have changed. Even though you may not start pretending. Because you see, the people you met and the things you did and the places you went to have changed you. And so this person that engaged you over here, who says they want to marry you, does not know the person they are seeing here is no more that same person. Say, but you used to be nice. But you didn't just talk like that. You see, you can attend one class and learn something that changes your whole life. Get a new ideology, a new perspective. Come back and say, I don't like God again. I don't like church. What is church about, sir? Who is Holy Spirit? Just because you went to somewhere and you have already committed to somebody, you're going to marry them here. Now, when you make that, are you guys understanding what I'm talking about? If you make this commitment here, and then you spend time apart, you become more different. When you come out here, you have a problem. Number one is either you say, I'm going to keep to my commitment to this person, even though right now I am more different from the person. So you want to keep the commitment because when I say I'm going to do something, I want to do it. You do that and be struggling. Because I'm not the person that you loved before. I'm not the person that you met. This is a new version of a human being. Or, so if you do that, it's going to bring pain. Or, as you also have that relationship now, as you keep going, you find that commitment that I made, I cannot keep it. Because I'm different from the person that made that commitment. Either way is going to bring pain. Now, what is supposed to happen is this. Watch this. If we make a commitment, I saw you, you saw me, and we say we like each other and we want to get married, two of us should enter the same process immediately. If we enter the process immediately, then we start being bonded together by life. What makes people connected in marriage emotionally, physically, psychologically, is because they are sharing the same experiences. Same experiences. When you marry somebody, you are still two different persons. You're not one. In fact, if we get married in church and we sign the register and then you go and I go, I will still feel single when I go. And if I go back to my single environment, I will still live like a single person. And it will be a pressure on me to act like I'm married because I'm not in the environment. But if I marry and I carry me and my wife from the church there, we go home. If we go home, we have entered the same boat. And we start sharing experiences. In the night, when I want to go and have my bath, and she's there, I may feel uncomfortable, she may feel uncomfortable, but we say, oh, but we're married now, is it not so? So we agree to go and have bath together because we are married. You know, we come out, okay, then are we going to, there's food to eat. You've not eaten with any gear before, but now two of you are eating food. Then you lie down on the bed. You wake up in the night. Somebody says, sorry, you want to, is that girl I married? Those shared experiences is what starts blending you together, blending you. That's why sometimes after a while, you see people who are married, they seem like they are now siblings because of shared experiences. But when you say you want to marry somebody and you commit to them, and then you travel, or you want to finish school, or you want to get a job, or you want to finish your service, by the time you come back, you start putting pressure on that relationship because by the time you are gone, there were other people. Do you know that when you are married, you see my wife, she will soon come. You still had people talking to her about getting married after she had married. So supposing I was in Ghana for 5 years, by the time I come back, those people have chance of coming close and coming around. Because somebody comes around, you can pursue them now in the same, they are your neighbor. So, madam, are you here again today? So, what is happening? And communication brings connection. Because you're not around to ward off those intrusions. Because you are managing your life. And then you can't also tell what I'm doing there. Who is serving me? Who is helping me? What's going on? Eventually, when people come together, the bond is not strong enough. And sometimes relationship breaks down. Let me say this final thing. Another one dangerous thing here, particularly for this kind of a thing, is that, let me talk about sex just a little bit. When a young man is keeping himself as a single young man, he doesn't want to get involved in sex, which God says we should. That's how we should live. And he holds himself. And then, if he gets married, supposing he gets married, I've moved a little bit forward now. I'm not talking about just engaging and separating. I'm talking about those who even marry, and as soon as they marry, they separate because they want to finish some things. Because it's either you are not ready, so you just connect, engage, and then keep living your separate life to come back in 10 years and marry, or you marry so that you have now finally bought the goods. Then you still went back to your life. I don't know if you are getting what I'm saying. Two of them will have the same issues. So if you married, like some people marry 1 month, I will just marry you and travel. You marry and you travel, and then As a young person who has been keeping yourself to God, you now have opened up your floodgates of sexual experience, and then you shut it down again in 1 month and go to South Africa. How you go do there? You know? So, what's the point? The point is that you wait till you are ready to make a choice. Otherwise, you can't be sure you're going to make the right choice. Okay? By the time you are ready to marry somebody, they may have been changed. Their character may have changed. Location may have changed. Their interests may have changed. Their job may have changed. And all of these changes will bring pressure to the relationship. All right. If you pick someone before you are ready, you may pick somebody who is compatible with you, compatible with the you were, and not the you are going to become, to create a crisis. All right. So finally, so that we can ask questions, I want to ask questions, is this. Have you noticed, I don't know how many of you, at different stages in your life, when you were in kindergarten, primary school, secondary school, university, you liked different persons through those seasons of your life, right? If they allowed you to marry in your kindergarten, there's somebody you would have married. There's somebody you would have married. But because they didn't allow you and you went to the next stage of your life, your preference changed. By primary school, there's another person you would have married. Who remembered that person? You're remembering the person now. But they didn't let you, so you were able to push to secondary school. There's somebody again you were married. University, somebody you were married. Now, watch this. Supposing that because you thought you would marry somebody, that person in the kindergarten, you engaged them. So I'm going to marry you. What do you do when you move to primary school and your preference changes? You'll be dragging with the comment you made in the past. What about when you go to secondary school? What about when you go to university? You're going to be struggling because what you thought was beauty in the person in the primary school was based on your experience. This is all you know. By the time you go to somewhere better, you see more people. You know, because you have not seen anybody who speaks English, you think that this guy is speaking too much English. Then you go to university and see English. Say, my God. My God. So what do? You hold yourself until you are ready. When you are now ready, you know this is the time. I make a decision, I follow it up, we stay in together. And that's the way to cut off headache, fever, malaria, stomach ache that comes out in relationship because you chose somebody to marry before the time. All right. God bless you. Does that make sense? All right. Celebrate Jesus. Okay. So I'll let you ask questions, about this conversation. Please ask questions. Questions will help me to know exactly where you are and what needs to be addressed. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir,
Yes.
for the teaching. So, I want to know, how do you, as a young man, manage relationship with the opposite sex? Since we have tendencies to, you want to wait,
Yes.
but then at the same time, you still want to socialize with people,
You.
connect with them.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So now, how do you manage so that it doesn't get to somewhere?
Beautiful question. Very brilliant question. So look at the way to deal with it. This is so important. Look at the way to deal with it. In life, you have to be fair in your relationships. And the way to be fair in your relationship is that you treat everybody on the same level of relationship with you the same. You treat everybody on the same level of relationship with you the same. I don't know if you understand what I've said. You need to ask yourself very, very important question. You see, how you treat people is not based on how you feel about them, but based on who they are to you. Question is, what is the relationship? Not how do I feel. So let's take, for instance, you come to church. You are in the choir, right? And because of you are in the choir, you have 6 sisters who are choir members. So what's the relationship to you? Choir members. And for being choir members, you treat the 6 of them the same as choir members. If you are going to treat one of them different, you have to establish the reason for that extra treatment. When you learn to treat people the same, it safeguards you. In other words, what I do with one of those people, I should be willing to do with all of them. I don't know if you understand me. That safeguards you. Otherwise, if you now start spending more time with one of them, you have to answer the question, why am I spending more time with this person? Who is this person to me to warrant this? You know, like I mentioned, again, talk about sex. You don't have sex with somebody because you feel sexual towards them. You feel sexual towards many people. But you don't have the relationship that permits that. So, if I'm going to take somebody out on an outing, who are my church members, it has to be that I take church members out for date all the time. So if I take this one out, I take that one out, I take that one out. That's what I do. But if you pick somebody, you have to decide why you are doing that. Does that make sense to you? Very important. If a sister picture is in your collection, you have to explain to yourself and to God why that picture is there. If it's there because it's my sister in the choir, collect other choir members' pictures and put there. So that's, you see, let me tell you this. When I was growing up, I had this sister. I actually liked the sister. I liked her. In fact, I wanted to marry her. But I wasn't ready to marry, so I didn't make any commitment. And then she also has a way she felt that connection with me. And so she also liked me. One of the things that she did was she gave me her pictures. And she gave me like 3 of her pictures to put in my collection. You know, of course, I will not reject her pictures. But the question is, who is this girl to me? Now, what would you think if you come to my house and I give you my picture collection, and as you look at my picture when I was small, when I was with my father and mother, then you see picture of the girl. 1, you go again, 1, 2, 3, 4, another 1, 2. After 3, what will you think? There's something. If other sisters come and look at my pictures and see that, they will say there's something, right? Okay. And there's nothing. So what did I do? I went to other sisters and collected their 3 pictures and put in the collection. That if you see this one picture 1, you see another one picture 1. After a while, you know, okay, he's good with sisters. He's good with sisters. He's safer than he's good with Sister Lucy. Yes, question. Yes.
Okay, sir. Question before I will ask my own is, you can't treat everybody the same way because people are different. How do you handle people with different characters?
Let me ask you.
Okay.
If you're a teacher in class, you're a student in class, and a teacher is treating a student different from you in that class, how would you like it? All of us are students. All of us are your students. So no matter your preference for anybody, as far as we are students in your class, you must treat us the same. You have to manage yourself, control yourself, unless you have another relationship. In fact, if you are a teacher and your child is in the class, you don't treat that your child preferential in that class. You wait until you go home. Because for here, you are going to treat all of us the same. There are some people who are going to be more expressive. You manage it. Those who are less expressive, you encourage them. That's what you do. Or you set yourself up for crisis.
Okay, so thank you for the teaching, sir. About the person you want to marry talking to someone.
Yes.
In a situation whereby the person is, let's say this guy or the lady is not around, like he's not in the state, and maybe the person know your family member. Let's say maybe I'm dating a guy, for instance, and it was my family friend. So my family member know him already, and like the guy is not around. How do you do? Is he on the phone that your brother want to talk to him, or maybe you don't even want your brother to talk to him before that time? How do you manage that situation?
Let me understand. You are dating somebody and the person is not around. Like, how, I don't know. What's the purpose of the dating? You want to get married and they're not around. Where did they go?
Like the guy is not around. He's not around.
That's what I'm saying. Where is the person now?
Let's say this person is in Nigeria.
He's not in the country.
Yes.
So why is he not in the country? How long would the person be away?
Maybe they plan to meet each other. Like they plan to maybe the lady will go and meet the guy.
Okay,
very
later.
soon. Yes.
Okay, so it depends on how that thing is arranged. I know somebody, they arranged to marry. The guy is in Germany, the girl is here. So they arranged that the girl will go and meet the guy. In fact, the girl was supposed to come back and then they do traditional wedding, and all of that. The guy couldn't come back. And they were cutting. That long engagement, something. They were cutting. The guy could not come back. And so the guy had to send his people to go and do traditional wedding, marry the girl officially. Okay. For the girl to now go back, she couldn't go. The process was difficult. The guy could not come. The girl could not go. For a long time. You know what happened? Eventually, they had to separate. They had to cancel their marriage, return the bride price, and another person could marry her because that is a gamble. Some of this is a gamble. You may be planning, you are no more, you smuggle yourself into the country, you want to get paper, you keep trying to see what you can do. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 7 years, and you are getting older as a lady. So it's to really know exactly why this thing is like this, and if it's something that you can put, and my concern is to just say, know what the challenges are, because there will be challenges.
In a situation whereby the person is settled there,
Okay.
and for one reason or the other, you plan to do your wedding and do it on the way they do it, you send pictures and the family go and pay the bride price. So how do you?
Is it to do it when you go over there?
Yes, and maybe the tradition that will be family go and pay whatever they want to pay.
Yes, they can do that.
So how do you still involve? Maybe you don't want to involve people in the planning. Like, I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
I'm trying to understand you.
Authority, having an authority over you.
There's no distance. There's nobody who wants to marry you, for instance, who should not talk to your father. So there's a distance problem. What is distance? If you want to marry somebody,